They're
I think
doing
that's
some, they're doing some interesting stuff with the AI blocks that you can drop in now. It's going to be
Yeah, I
fun to
think
see where
themes
that
are dead.
goes.
yeah. You think they're gone?
Yeah, like I wouldn't start a theme business right now. Like,
Yeah, I don't think that. Well, I definitely would not be the first business I start. But I will say, like, I still think a lot of it comes down to price point, right? Like, how much will it do for you without you having to think about it, and how much does that cost? And if you have enough people willing to pay for that, basically like starting point, and the starting point is meaningfully better than zero, then I think there's still some value there.
I just think Shopify's gonna be able to do anything that like, and I don't think the behavior of people is going to be like, I'm going to go look for the theme and like do this calculation. I think the expectation is going to be when you buy Shopify, I could be able to just prompt Shopify to make the little section that I want. I'm not going to make a full like theme decision because like it has like this one widget or something.
And you can see they're making things more like Lego blocks, which is how
Yeah.
you scale up. With any agentic coding is you need to templatize things, and they're doing that aggressively, it
Yeah.
seems now. So that's going to be big.
All right, Stu. Do you want to just dive in? What do we?
Yeah, dude, throw whatever you want. I'm an open book.
You're an
Whatever you
open
want.
book.
What's
I have a
crazy
question.
is that we used to be in the same Hampton group, and he's like, oh, sorry, my business is scaling too fast. I can't come to these calls anymore.
It's a baller way to drop out. Yeah.
Better than the I can't afford more way of dropping.
Oh my God, that's so funny. Okay, Stu, you okay. First of all, your claim online, it's like a fine, I'm sure it's true, but it's not particularly useful. Right? It's like charge fair prices and then grow and become like a big like okay. You know, like that's like impossible to disagree with, right? Like it's like a impossible to disagree with claim. So the actual question underneath that is like, what is the end state from which you are working backwards to have that strategy?
Yeah, and this is worth saying, like, and this is the nice thing about SaaS as well. We've got, all of us on here right now. You can do it so many different ways. You can raise 45 million. You can bootstrap, seed strap, whatever you want to do. Please do not take any of my advice because my situation is going to be very different to everybody else's. So, like, if you look back on mine, I've been shipping software, like doing the majority of coding myself for the last 20 years, coming up to right now. Bootstrap Rivo from another Shopify apps company that does, 4 million-ish. So everything that I say is, purely due to my circumstances. And please don't take any advice to it at all. It's just saying what we're trying to do. But yeah, I think you said, hey, what's the plan to 50? And I was like, I don't even know if the 50 is there. Like, it really is dependent on the TAM, right? If we were back in 2021, I'd be like, dude, we're fucking scaling to the moon. Why can't we make this $1 billion company? But the reality of the situation is, and if you look around and going back to the convo you were talking about with Taylor, who was in with Sean and the rest of them, it's a TAM problem. And the TAM is not growing anywhere near the supply. So supply is rocketed. I know there's a lot of vibe code and stuff in there, and you can, it is what it is. But the actual demand is what is, let's call it stagnant or slightly rising, nowhere near like it used to. So that's where we are today.
And honestly, like your roster of clients already is pretty impressive. So if you think about that and like where you've gotten with your business to this point, then yeah, it's like I have the same problem with No. It's like we already work with most of the, like maybe not most, but like a large percentage of the really good customers out there. There's only so much you can do there without raising prices or.
Can I double click on that comment actually? And because Stu and I have talked about this previously. So I think it would be correct to say that like both you and Stu and yeah, I mean, Foreplay potentially too already work with a big percentage of what I would describe as like the fastest growing, best Shopify brands. And the consequence of that statement is actually directly feeding into the TAM comment earlier. And so, yeah, so Stu, like when you say TAM, what is your TAM?
The moment if you say, what's our ICP? It's anybody on Shopify Plus. So when we first started, I came from just PLG App Store, never even ran a demo call till I was like 37 years old or something like that. Literally just the App Store was the only way we grew. 2+ million installs from the App Store. We did the same thing then when we started Rivo. I was like, oh, we're just going to, do the App Store thing. We did it, and then we hit this major ceiling at like $1 million ARR, and we just stagnated for like 9 months. And the reason was, well, everyone in the App Store, your ICP is usually a brand doing under 7 figures. That's the major chunk that's in there. So we kind of maxed out that ICP for what we needed because we are a retention product. No one on the App Store needs retention. They need acquisition, especially if you're under 7 figures. Like, you're just going to churn. The churn was through the roof. It was crazy. So then who actually needs the product? Well, anyone doing 8 figures and up is like a great, multi-product, which pretty much everyone is. That's who our ICP is. Then we nailed it down to, well, Shopify Plus. There were some features that were restricted on Shopify Plus, checkout extensions, things like that. So we just leaned in and said, hey, we're Shopify Plus. Now we're still on the App Store. We have like plans for underneath, $49 scale plan. But that's all self-serve,
Is that your plan to stay on Shopify Plus?
I don't see us going off of Shopify as a platform, if that's what you mean. So like, I'm happy to wait for bigger enterprise brands to come to Shopify Plus. I think that building outside of Shopify, at least from my perspective, and the way things are going at the moment, the juice isn't worth the squeeze from what I can see. I think the end game is everyone ends up on Shopify in one form or another. That's the kind of bet that all my eggs have been in the Shopify basket for 10 years. You know what I mean? So like, I'm fine with doing that until we see what happens. Like,
So if you're staying in Shopify Plus, what do you expect your TAM is?
well, there's like 18,000 plus stores or something around that number, right? Which is probably more like 15,000.
Yeah, probably more like 9.
Storely now says 47. 47K.
Wait, what it says?
Storelead says 47,000 on Shopify Plus, but I think I think the actual number is in the 20s in terms of like unique.
I wish they would tell us actually, and just like quash the long-standing mystery.
They used to publish it. The last number I saw was something like 22,000 a couple of years ago.
Right. But yeah, if you take like $1,000 ACV or 12,000 ACV, $1,000 a month, and then put that out over however many Shopify Plus brands, that's where you're at. But again, honestly, I swear to God, this is the honest truth. I don't have a goal in mind or like we're fully bootstrapped with no board. So like, I don't know, just keep going until we max it out. We have the ARR goals. So for this year is 6, which looks like we're going to hit. We just passed 5. And then next year, past 10 is the goal. Would love to double again and go to 12. But there's plenty of that there. And how I know there's plenty of that there is, I have a fair idea of what our larger competitors, who, again, let's talk about the TAM not growing. This is the reality of it, is that most likely those brands, for us to get past 10 million, are going to have to come from our legacy competitors. So that's where our focus is. And we know that exists. So we know what the goals are and how to get there. But again, if we got
if you add up all your competitors, what's the number? Like, what's the end state ARR?
Someone to be surprised by. I have heard of some of them, and I've only seen them from, like Zach said, being in Hampton. People come through and they have to post, here's how much my business makes. We've had a competitor come through there who's a very well one that you'd know. And I was like, holy fuck, you're like 3 times bigger than I thought. So there's a lot. Jeremiah probably knows who it is. So I know that there's sitting there about 40 plus million that our competitors have that we don't have, that we would very much like.
Doesn't that scare you? Like, how do you feel about that? I don't want to impose my feelings onto you. That was not good. That was not good.
Well, wait, do you think that's too little or too much?
Do you want to know what I am? Dude, this is the kind of shit that I get into trouble for. Do you want to
go?
Good. We all know what you're talking about.
Jack, get this ready to get clipped here.
Yeah, look, man, I hear that the total pie is 45, and then I think to myself, with exceptional execution, I win 30% of it. Okay, that's like, Klaviyo is like an extraordinary outlier having 80% of Shopify, right? Or whatever ridiculous percentage they have. Most of the time, as like a market leader in SaaS, if you can, anything north of 20 is incredible execution. Okay. Like I think we would all roughly agree with that. If you disagree, I would love to hear that. But that's where I generally come from. I'm like, given a particular market, if I can do 20% plus penetration, I'm like executing well. So then I'm like, okay, I take 50 and I take 20% of 50 or 30% of 50. I'm like landing between 10 and 15. That's like next year's number.
Yeah. But
here's the difference, right? This is coming from a man who's raised 45. So our expectations of success are totally different. They could not be further apart, right?
Stuart's already won.
No, I'm just asking you, what will you do after you hit it?
Oh,
I'm not saying, dude, I've learned my lesson. I'm not saying success, not success. I don't need to learn the same lesson twice. I want to then know like we're talking about, like, okay, because I trust actually that you'll execute on that. And so I kind of just want to know, you open your eyes on Jan 1st of 2027, what are you doing?
If we're at 25 mil?
Dude, even if you're at 12, like you're 25% penetrated. You know what I mean? The total effort versus the reward at that point, the calculus becomes totally lopsided for your time.
Well, we all know how this is, right? It's the classic thing where when I was 20 and you told me I'd have $1 million business, I would have shit my pants and said, like, I cannot believe this. Then you get to 1 million and you go like, oh, why are we not at 5? Then you get to 5 and you want to get to 10. Like, when we get to 25, we'll be wondering why the fuck we're not at 50. You know what I mean? So like, it really depends on the market as well, man. Like, you take a look at how sales went today versus 2022. They could not be more different. So I have no idea where it is in like 3 years. We're just kind of the flea on the back of e-com that is hoping that it moves in the right direction, and we're there to serve the market.
I think that the thing is, like, if you plateau in this context, there's like, if you run the business well, if you grow it well, if you run it well, if you have good profit margins, there is going to be a buyer for this business. And it may not be like the 10x multiple thing is not like there's not people buying. There's not many buyers at that kind of a range right now. But to like value sell, like let's say you get to a point where you're at 15 million in ARR with 5 million in EBITDA, you can get, even a value buyer will pay $20 to $30 million for that business, which if you have bootstrapped that and you're making money in the process and that's your outcome, like that doesn't sound so bad. I've never had $20 million.
No,
so
dude.
there's
But that's not. No. Sorry, I'm not saying that the outcome is bad or that there's not a buyer. I'm asking Stu, what does he do?
So we get to 25. I don't know, dude. See what happens then. Honestly, I'm not even thinking like that. I am loving. I know this sounds like the written down thing, and it's what everyone says. I am fucking loving what I'm doing right now. Like, I'm working 6 days a week. I get up at 3 a.m. every morning, and we're shipping fucking code, and we're trying to beat competitors. Maybe when we beat the competitor, the edge comes off. We're at 25 million, and I look for the next thing. Who knows? Or maybe I keep going to 100. But honestly, I don't even have a plan for that. I've been very lucky and gotten lucky in previous businesses exit when I was younger, and like I'm just here trying to wake up and have a good reason to get up and actually get on the laptop and work. You know what I mean? That's where I'm at. So I don't
Dude,
know.
totally. I think that's the part. But for what little it's worth, that's the part of it that I think makes the small TAM scary. Is actually dude, there's nobody in their right mind who's running a business because it's like the economically rational thing to do. It's like totally irrational. I mean, like, you have to kind of like love the game. You have to love the building. Like, you have to love those things too. And then yes, upon loving those things, you can drive incredible economic outcomes, right? Like yes, that happens. But there's that love. Like nobody who's like a founder does not love the building aspect. I just wonder, how do you reconcile that with a small TAM? Because like the precise issue is that there will come a point at which you run out of things to do because there is not demand for the thing. Or do you just go build the next business? Like that's what I'm trying to understand for you personally.
Yeah, no, for me personally, I mean, like, I would love to, first of all, hit the 10, then hit the 25. Those are the two goals that I see. And again, it's like a lot of things. When you hit the goal, you're like, okay, we're going to keep going, or is it time for me to look for something else? And maybe it will be time to look for something else, but my head is too in the trenches right now to even consider. I swear to God, I've not even given that 1 second thought on what that actually looks like when it happens.
I feel like for myself, when I hit the goal, I don't even think about reflecting on it. Like, it's not even like I even it's not in the times of success that I consider moving on. It's like always the shit times that you consider moving on. Like, you just like hit the goal like 3 months early. You're like, oh yeah, let's just keep going. It's like default. And it's just like when you're not hitting the goal is when you're like, I don't know, maybe I should move on.
What sucks about hitting the goal
it's like it's like it's generally not that serious. Because like in his case, and like similar in my case, it's like it all works out. In like even like at this point, if like we were to get like sued into oblivion, I'm like pretty happy with like the amount of EBITDA that I've taken out of the business for like the work that I've done in like the last few years. And it would be like 10 to 20 times like working a job. So it's like, I mean, I really don't think about the things in which the way that you're framing them either, for sure. Like, I don't think I've ever.
Do you guys think it's because we're venture backed that I like have to confront these questions while you guys are not, like, because like I'll give you a counter example. I saw Tomer at Beanstalk, right? And or even if you heard him in the podcast with Sean, like he literally talks about exactly this issue, right? Like the reason they divested those businesses is because they saw a ceiling and they were like, okay, like I don't want to spend my time continuing to build here because like given this ceiling, I would rather spend my time building in this other area, right? Which is like an opportunity cost like framing, basically, right? And much more, and like definitely something that's like present with me too, right? And it sounds like you guys are saying it's not present with you, and that makes me like extremely curious. Like what? Like I wonder why that might be true. Yeah. And Jeremiah, actually, what is your view?
Yeah, I actually do think you're right on that. Like it comes down to like what the economics need to be for your business. And if it's fully bootstrapped and you own I don't know, let's say just 100% for simplicity. There are no rules about what you can or cannot do in that context. In the context in which I operate now, having sold a business that's part of a holding company, there are some rules. So I have to think about it a little bit differently. And I think about it in terms of basically, what does it look like to increase the profit of the business on an annual basis, essentially. Like that's kind of the goal. And there's a little bit more formality to that, obviously. But then that's what frames the way that I think about it. So I do think about, like, there are milestones that I more or less have to hit that I wouldn't maybe care about if I were fully bootstrapped. But I don't really think about the maximum potential of TAM. I'm not thinking about how do you get this to $100 million in ARR. Like that's not my goal at all. It's how do I get 10% better, 20% better, 30% better. So it's a little bit different mindset, I think.
The other spanner in the works here is actually platform risk. Because you get to a $25 million business and Shopify changes something. You know, I've been here 10 years. I've had a couple of run-ins. I love them. But we've had a couple of run-ins in the past that really fucked our business. I won't go into details, but, you know. But when you're at 25 million, listen, I'm sure you have a line to Harley or someone who can like make sure that you don't get absolutely wrecked. When I first started in Shopify in 2015, someone gave me this great line. It's like, I was asking them, hey, I'm looking at Shopify. So I spent a couple of years looking for the next thing to do, bootstrap, and Shopify popped up on the radar. And I was like, holy shit, this is a great opportunity. And I asked someone, what do you think of this? And they're like, the thing about platforms is it's not if you get fucked over, it's when you get fucked over. So now, I don't know, maybe things have changed, but when you look back through every other platform, Facebook, Twitter, whoever you want, Reddit, like at a certain time, I know Shopify's different. They really invest in the partner community, everything like that, but it sits in the back of your head. It definitely sits in the back of mine. Maybe I've gotten burnt a couple of times over the last decade. Jeremiah, I'm sure you've had some run-ins as well that you're like, fuck, this feels like shaky ground. Do you know?
Dude, they had this whole logo thing. Did you not hear about this?
Yeah, the branding stuff. I mean, like that's a very small example, but I haven't had one where it's like your business is over. But I know people that have. But I have had multiple things where Shopify is like, you have to change this important thing that you're doing. Like the extensibility thing was that for us. We had a bunch of features that were really unique and really compelling that we had to turn off because we could no longer do them through the context of Shopify's checkout extensibility because they just didn't give us the ability to do that anymore, which is annoying. Like it took us from being, it dropped us down a notch to be closer to our competition in terms of the feature set that we offered, which was really like, that's annoying. It has a material impact on your business. So yeah, it wasn't business killing, but there have been multiple things they've done that have probably had a 5-10% impact on our growth for a period of time where it's like, it's slowed us down. It's made it harder for us to operate. But at the same time, having the platform gives us the ability to even exist in that context. So it's a
double edge, yeah.
Stu, can I ask a direct question? Why
Yes.
not invest into other platforms in this context? Like, why not invest into Salesforce Commerce Cloud? And because we talked a little bit separately about like sales motions and direct sales motions and going to like billion-dollar companies and things like that. And look, like, yes, they're going to, let's just take your version of the world, which is like, eventually they will go to Shopify, right? Like, let's say I believe that, which I don't, but even if I do, the timeline for those migrations is totally non-trivial, right? We're like, I mean, like, dude, you and I, we already got the whites, man. I mean, like, I don't know how much.
I got it in the beard, man.
Like, Zach is the only one living young, and even he fucking dyed his hair. And you know what I mean? Exactly, that's what I'm saying. It's like, you're the only one who can keep it naturally black, and even you're going white. And so, like, you know what I mean? Like, how long do you want to wait? Yeah, to like acquire those customers.
Yeah, well, I mean, this leads into another good point, which is where a lot of our growth has come from has been driving headfirst straight into agentic coding. And how to do that, again, like we touched on at the start of the chat, was templatizing and putting things into thinking about things like Lego blocks that you can scale up quickly and reliably and have quality output at the end of it. As far away from vibe coding as possible.
Yeah. Have you figured out how to get the LLMs to understand what your modules are? Like you've already done that work?
The biggest thing we did was putting a framework around Claude code. There's one that just came out called CC Sessions, if anyone's interested in it. But the whole thing about it is if you let it go just vanilla Claude code, it'll give you back 60% good, but you'll probably spend more time fixing it than you would have spent if you just did it from the start. What you have to do is, or what we found anyway, is programmatically code in that you can only give me output that I have told you that I want and the way that I want it to come back. And it has to pass all of these tests before we can actually take it as a pull request. So really it's about building the guardrails is 90% of the work. So we spent probably 3 months rebuilding the code base to be, let's call it LLM friendly. And then from there, we just started thinking about things like Lego blocks, literally. Hey, if you break everything down, we're crud, it's crud monkeys, right? It's like everything we do is just a database, API call, and then we show it in HTML with JavaScript. That's it. So we just drastically put things into Lego blocks, and it has really helped now, especially when you're built on top of Shopify. It's on the back of very well documented APIs that you can use, MCPs, you can use a lot of other things to plug in and make sure that the content is actually correct before you put it into a pull request.
And as soon as you venture into Commerce Cloud, it's like multiple times more complex than what you're dealing with right now.
Exactly. So I think we'd be shooting ourselves in the foot there, at least now anyway.
I like what you said, Stu, about it's up to the market. I think you can split demand up into your TAM and then your growth from the existing cohort. So new dollars flowing in from your existing customers. And do you think that a lot of that demand and that growth is inflection point driven? As in,
yeah, I mean,
it's not steady.
Well, this is another good point here to touch on, right? Which everybody is moving sideways right now. In terms of, if you talk about, bring it back to TAM as well. Like look at Klaviyo. What did they just bring out? They brought out a gorgeous competitor. A lot of the subscription platforms are bringing out loyalty. Everyone's just said, okay, we're just going to build similar products to people that know, like, and trust us already. And that's all you do if it's not 2021 and, new brands are coming online all the time. I don't know if that's exactly what you were getting at, Jack, but that's where it brought me.
Yeah.
I do think there's a lack of creativity, though, to be honest. Like, I think there's so much more opportunity in spaces that nothing exists yet. Obviously, it's like a little bit hard. But I think I'm not thinking about adding additional products that other people sell. Like, that just seems like a waste of time to me. I'm thinking about building things that don't exist.
But if you imagine, if you charged a percentage of growth to your customers, Stu, right? And your existing customers and that existing cohort that exists in the TAM right now didn't grow, you could grow if enough new money flowed into those consolidated companies. But I guess what I mean by inflection point driven is that things just blow up out of nowhere and you don't know when a massive wave of demand is going to come in. So looking at TAM as if it's totally static or as if it's just driven by migrations and it's not driven by something cataclysmic that we can't anticipate. I don't know. I feel like the demand might be there, right?
But you could predict this pretty well given his current product, because like the demand for retention has already been sort of created, and like the idea that it would 3x in the market would be like a black swan, and like the only things that would like potentially cause that is like 4 of his largest competitors going bankrupt and the founders also dying. Like, like the only thing that would like 3x his time and like in
Or
like
the
a
whole
market.
market going up, right? Like, what was the market for, you know, AI engine optimization? Zero, right? It was zero. And then all of a sudden it was something, right?
I do think there's room for expansion inside the like Shopify ecosystem. I think there's room for meaningful expansion in certain categories. Like in the survey category, when we launched No, there were a couple of very small players that collectively were maybe doing $1 million a year in revenue. I don't even think it was that much. And what's interesting is as we grew, like we all the price points were very low at that point in time, and all the tools were very simple. And as the market decided that they wanted these things and that it was having more value and impact, what I've found really interesting is that most of the time when somebody's switching from a competitor to come, this is a little bit different in the last 12 months, but still happens. If somebody's switching from a competitor to come work with us, oftentimes they're going to pay us more than they were paying the competitor. And I think, I don't know what your experience has been, Stu, but like I'm sure you see some of that too, where somebody's actually willing to come pay you more money for the loyalty stuff that they're doing. They were using maybe a points-based loyalty system. They come pay you more money because there's more impact from what you're doing than what they were getting with their points-based loyalty. So you can, like in that context, maybe the TAM only expands by 20%, but you potentially can grow 100% because you're capturing most of that in that context.
Yeah. And this reminds me of man, this tweet has been living in my head for like a month. The one that Taylor Holiday put out about like the service part of SaaS. Do you see that one? Because he fucking nailed it, like absolutely on the head. Like that's where all our margin goes, especially when it comes to, you know, loyalty. People don't just rock up one day at a 8 or 9 figure brand and install loyalty and just put it on the site, right? It's like the sales cycle is this long, and then actual implementation, we want to go as fast as possible, but sometimes it can take, you know, months to actually get these things implemented. So that's the other side of it as well, is like the actual service side is such a big component that when you're looking at the market in general, like we used to look at it when we were in the app store and we were like, why are these guys on, you know, whoever? And it's like, oh, it's the service component. That's it, you know?
Yeah. I actually like, Stu, my challenge for you, which I mean out of like 100% respect, because I don't know the constraints, but it's like, given that you're making that investment already, I don't quite understand why you would not accelerate the acquisition of brands that are off of Shopify. Like to me, that is like you are taking on the cost of onboarding anyway. I don't fully get the delta to you, given the business model dynamics exist. Like you have salespeople, you have onboarding, you have implementation, you have agentic coding tools. Like, yes, it's a little bit more complicated with Salesforce. It's not that much more complicated. Like we have a ridiculous integration with Salesforce Commerce Cloud. Okay, like because we have to plug into everything. And like, again, I'm not saying that it's you have to disagree with your view of the world about Salesforce, like everybody eventually migrating to Shopify, but it'll accelerate the timeline with which you get there, right?
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I'm open to it. Previously in the past, we've just put the blocker up. Like years ago, we looked at it and I was just like, it's too much here. But yeah, I mean, might be worth another look, to be honest. I'd love to chat with you offline about that.
Also, yeah, when you're doubling every year, there's less appetite, I feel like, for investing in things like that.
Yeah, the last 3 months has been fucking. You can see the new bags under my eyes. We've been trying to. I think we've
This is going too
doubled
well.
this. We've doubled the size of the head count. We're trying to keep it as low as possible, but at a certain time, it just, you know, I think we're at like 24 now or something like that.
Yeah,
What are you?
dude, this
What
is
are you
my
guys all at? Head count size.
Or like 50.
75.
Right. Not bad.
Yeah. I think like once you're at the point, like Yeah, I just think like you're doing it anyway, and you're like you have like created these walls for yourself that your reality actually does not require those walls anymore. That's my 2 cents as an
Yeah,
outsider.
no,
As an outsider and as a friend. Like, you know,
I
with all the love in the world for Shopify and all like I you know, I just think that there's like a lot more love to give, so like why not give it to everybody? So,
no, I'm open, man. I'm open. I think for the moment we got the blinkers on for it. Shopify, especially again, as I said, we know what's out there. Might sound like a small pool, but you know, to to us, it's a meaningful amount. So I think we're just heads down on trying to get that into our pockets instead.
How do you think about hiring them? So, because it's interesting, because like we have like pretty closely sized businesses, and you have like 2 times the headcount. So it's like, what is that headcount made up of right now? And then how are you making the decisions in terms of like directions to grow the team? I'm like very much focused on not growing headcount. Like we've grown about 100% this year and we haven't added anybody. And I'm just curious, like how you make those decisions.
Yeah, I would love to keep it as absolutely small as possible. Like we all know as business owners, maybe Zach, I'm sure maybe you've had a business before that's like past the 10. Once it gets past like 30, 40, it just, yeah, it just does not become fun anymore. In my perspective, but you know, this is before I was on EOS or any of that kind of stuff. But our business is super heavy on onboarding and success. Like we have 2 engineers and I'm one of them. So like,
Okay, so most of the headcount is marketing, sales, and success.
yeah. And since January, the only people we've hired are people who get on Zoom calls and talk to brands or talk to partners. And we've tried just to hire the best people in the industry that we can. And like we're at 5 million, we're putting just every penny back into the business. So I'm 4 years in here. I've made $0 from this business and probably, you know, minus a couple of million, who knows, something like that. I haven't even counted it. I want to, but we are just putting it all back into the people. Again, coming back to the small TAM, relationships in our market. It took me a long time to learn this. They mean a fucking hell of a lot. More than like, I keep learning it every year. I'm like, holy shit. It just keeps coming back to like knowing, trusting, and liking somebody and willing to say, hey, I'm going to put my money with you guys and know that you're going to
yeah.
deliver for me. So yeah, that's where all our money is going. I think we're at a great spot right now where we're going to chill on the hiring for a bit. Seems like we've gotten things under control there, and it's gonna go to the next stage. So
I
one
love
of the
that.
things
I
though,
think
yeah,
especially in SaaS, it's built into the model, right? No one keeps subscriptions that aren't serving them into the future. They cancel. Right? I don't know if you were selling engagement rings, you might be able to pull off having a bad reputation because you only have to sell once, hopefully, right? But you're not selling engagement rings, you're selling a subscription, right? So you need your customers to like you. And yeah, I think that just part of having a low time preference, valuing things being good in the long run, as opposed to like right now.
What were the main changes when you said you were plateaued at $1 million ARR just from the Shopify App Store and then you switched? Like, what were like the main changes that happened during that switch?
yeah. The main problem was that nobody knew he existed. Like you think that, and I see it as well. I lived for 5 or 6 years in the App Store, and then the last 4 on the other side of it, and they could not be more completely different businesses.
Yeah,
So yeah,
we
go ahead.
I would say we survey our customers when they sign up and ask them where they found us, and I mean less than 10% of our revenue comes from App Store discovery.
What do you guys use for the surveys?
It's a company called No Commerce. Pretty good. Lots of people use it.
So yeah, we basically hit then the 1 million ceiling in the App Store, looked around, and this is when, I don't know if you guys know like Adam Robinson he's like on LinkedIn. he was the first person in our industry to be like, hey, here's how much money I'm making. And here's you literally printed his his financials and put them up. And I was like, this guy's making 20 million plus in our space. And he's only been doing it a few years. I was like, what the hell is this guy doing? So kind of tracked that down, started to build in public stuff, which some other people are doing this very well as well. The guys at Alia, killing it with this.
Yeah,
If
they
you
are.
if you can get to 1 million and start building public, just say how much you have. It doesn't fucking matter. You think it matters, you want people to sign an NDA, it doesn't matter. We have $1 million in ARR. Either you're good enough that it doesn't matter if you have new competitors or not. They've really leaned into it. And dude, they went from 1 to 5 in the last year or something like that. And they've blown up off the back of building public. I think it's the best weapon for any founder, especially bootstrapped. Once you hit that 1 million mark, I feel like before 1 million, if you're doing it at 100,000, it's just it's like seeing a comedian when he's a year in. It's like, oh, that guy sucks. You know what I mean? It just doesn't work. But at 1 million, it's the best thing you can do.
Okay, so no, this is maybe overstating it. Very few businesses just go up into the right forever. What's your thought about the risk of that? Like at a certain point in time, you're going to plateau, maybe even decline a little bit while you're trying to get to the next state. What do you think about that? Because there's what I see when that happens, people are building public and all of a sudden they stop talking about things. It's like, oh, business isn't going so great. So I'm curious how you feel about that.
Yeah, if you actually look, the majority of people stop at 5 million. And I think the reason they stop at 5 million is because when you're at 1 million, you're the founder. And if it doesn't work, well, then it's fucking all on you. At 10 million, 5 million, you can't dunk on the head of sales because you're your CRO because revenue isn't where you want it, and take the responsibility when it's somebody else's job to do, So I think most people are like, I don't want to throw my team under the bus. There's only so much responsibility that obviously everything comes up to you as the founder, CEO, right? But you don't want to say, hey, we had a bad quarter and then throw your team under the bus or whatever, I think that's why most people bow out around 5 million. It seems
Dude,
like.
I think the reason most people bow out at 5 million is because TAMs are forces of gravity. And getting past, I will tell you, the number one conversation I had at Beanstalk was with other e-com SaaS founders who are at a few million of ARR, and they were asking for sales and marketing advice. And you want to know what the number? You know what I shared with them is, don't invest in sales and marketing, because all you're going to do is hit the ceiling faster, and you want to sell your business when it looks like this, not when it looks like this. Right? That's, yeah. And that's actually sort of part of the issue here is because the growth rate is going to be a big part of how your business gets valued at the point at which you sell it, probably, right? Especially if you're selling it to PE or something like that, unless it's a strategic sale, which is a totally different conversation. But yeah, managing against not getting close to the plateau is super important.
And I'm curious what you think is the reasonable range that somebody should expect to be able to hit before they start to get to that plateau.
Between 10 and 20.
Well, I like what you said, Stu, about
Yeah.
no one's heard of you, right? No one had heard of us, right? You had maybe a good product. It was maybe providing supply to a real market demand. People would use it if they knew about you. I've been thinking about this recently because I see it in the headlines of funny videos or sometimes serious videos. I think when people hear about the word marketing, it becomes a bit of a buzzword, but it's just the process of taking your product to market. Moving off Shopify is marketing. You're taking your product to a different market. I don't think marketing and demand gen is interesting to SaaS. Maybe there's something romantic about growth without the extra cost. But yeah, I don't know. Do you guys think that software has been in the game of providing supply to an existing demand, right? Something that people are craving, and there hasn't needed be that much demand gen. If you're on Shopify are kind of doing a lot of the demand gen for you.
I think they do a lot for you on the App Store side, right? But on the other side, again, it's that big line in the middle of App Store versus Harry Shops at Beanstalk talking to everyone there. None of those founders that are there are barely even know the App Store exists or that your app is number 3 in the search results. Like, they just don't see it. It's which blew my mind when we first made that jump over. I was like, dude, we went to, it was fucking humbling. We went to this like dude, it wasn't that long ago. It was that SendLane conference. In fact, Jeremiah, we were there.
Yeah.
And I was just like talking to everyone. We're like, who the fuck are you? Like, just, not that we
dude,
think
that's
right
so-
big. And this was
so
years
funny.
ago. But there's nothing worse than being at a conference and someone is, you say like, here's my business, and someone's like, oh, okay, and like the eyes glaze over or whatever. I think that having people just know who you are is the biggest thing you can do. So I don't think anyone is going to want loyalty or retention software tomorrow, but if they at least can match our name to the next 6 months when it comes to them wanting it, that they're like, well, let's have a demo with them just because I know that that's what they do. I think that's the best thing you can do for it. But yeah.
I'm sorry, you guys should keep going, but I actually need to hop. But yeah,
All right, man. Good to chat.
I think that the reason why people don't continue to build in public is that the leverage on the transparency decreases over time. Like, if you have one customer and then one new person sees your LinkedIn post, now you have 2 customers, and that's 100% growth. And like, I think it's like a consistent thing. And there's like people that have taken it to like a really large level. Like, I think the largest maybe build in public, like SaaS kind of guy is like maybe like the Lemless dude. But like, over a long enough time horizon, it stops being about Lemless and it starts being about him. And then you're building a personal brand. And then you also have to like consider, like, am I someone that wants to be like a personal brand type guy? That's like the piece that I've always got to, is that like we did a little bit of it early on. I've never talked about revenue, just because like I think that like the best I mean, I think it's good for like engagement and stuff like that, but I think it's like most of the time irrelevant when talking to your ICP. And like, I don't have like a desire to become like a SaaS guru like after this. Like, the highest leverage thing I could do potentially after this is, and like maybe a reason I should be building a personal brand is like maybe to invest in other things. But like, I also don't see myself becoming an investor. So it's like, for me, it's like I haven't seen. It's also just like I don't necessarily want to do it with my time, and I'm like, you can. It really is just like choose which way you want to go, and then just commit to the way you want to go. Right? Like, there's a lot of people that have like fake photos on their Twitter profiles that are the largest Twitter profiles, and there's no, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, at the end of the day, there's like 1,000 ways to skin a cat, and like, kind of skin it, just make sure it gets skinned.
I think the diminishing returns thing is a real thing. Like, even for myself, I like posting and doing those things, but the reality is the last 6 months, I've had the impact of my time is so much bigger working on problems that cost us 6 to 7 figures than it is like getting another person to know about what we're doing on, like, you get to a point in these businesses become machines where I think you can have some impact as a founder. Certainly, but I think it's just like it doesn't, to your point, Zach, like the incremental impact of that just isn't as big as some of the other things you'd be worried about in terms of like scaling of systems and processes and making sure that people are doing the right things and focused on the right things and building the right things and all of that. So, yeah.
I also think that like for me, like this year, I've radically reduced my consumption of this type of content. Specifically on Twitter. Like, I used to scroll Twitter and LinkedIn probably hours a day, and I felt like it gave me like a lot of data points that were like, but then it reached a point where I was just like, oh, history just repeats itself, and I'm reading the same thing over and over, and I'm not seeing like the sparks of like ideas and things like that I once did when potentially the panoramic of like my ideas were like green. And then I was like, oh, like the actual thing I should do is like spend more time like looking at our own data, or just like thinking without like input. And like I generally have gotten more value out of that. In I think the last like 12 months. It's just
Yeah.
being like, I'm a bit like fucking disconnected from it all. I don't want to see fucking stupid threads or like the things, and like I'm just gonna build a business.
Yeah, man. You
I feel
have
like
a
there's also
post
a
that pops
scale.
off. Or sorry, I was saying you have a post that pops off, will fuck up your day for like you're back in replying to people. You know what I mean? It's a lot. Sorry, Jack.
I
Go
feel like
ahead.
there's a scale as well of like building in public. I used to work in agency in one of the biggest brands. They used to have $1 million days. You know, they'd be very happy with numbers that, you know, would make me very happy, right? Huge business. And the founder used to do lives. I remember something that she said that stuck with me was the best thing I've ever done is stop doing lives. So she could start building her business in different ways. Lives were super time consuming for her. She just hated the activity, right? And her business was a lot smaller when she was doing lives. She's still active online. Like she's like it's a founder led brand. But she just posts videos and she doesn't even record them, edit them, anything. Someone just follows her around, right? So for a lot of people, what she does would be building in public that's potentially exhausting, but it's a better alternative to what she used to do, right?
Yeah, I think it's industry specific as well. So like I'm gonna juice up Rashad here now he's not on the call, but he was at Beanstalk, right? Him and walking through Beanstalk and him being visible on LinkedIn, Twitter is huge compared to him have never showing his face on social media. I think brands, e-com SaaS brands that are probably starting to drop off, I bet you couldn't even name the founder or the CEO who is actually in charge there right now. When it comes to relationships, I know Jeremiah is a good dude. He's going to take care of us. That means a lot in the small little space we're in. It's a clique as well, man. Like you got to be in the nightclub, you know what I mean, or you're outside behind the curtain.
True. And it also depends on, like in Rashad's case, he's got very high ACVs. And so it's like you walk through that conference, you make a relationship with somebody, and that turns into a deal. You just paid for the next 3 conferences, right? Like whatever that looks like. In the context of my business, that's not the case. Like for me, it's literally just like a branding play, just showing up and getting FaceTime with people. There's no ROI on that. I cannot actually I shouldn't say there's no ROI, but I cannot measure an ROI that actually makes sense in doing those things because we just don't charge enough for that to be the case. And so like there's a difference in that too. And I think like how people show up, whether intentional or not, I think how you show up in the space is partially dictated by how much you can charge for the thing that you sell as well.
Yeah, dude, there is no social media from me before 2023 because I sold a product that was $29 and $69. I did not need people to know. I needed them to click the button on the App Store. You know, there was no point. It was a waste of my fucking time even thinking about that. And then it completely flips and it's the exact opposite, just like you mentioned. So yeah, it's all nuanced, man. It's all weird.
I wanted to ask you a couple questions. I saw a few of your tweets and I thought they were interesting. This is one of them, if I can share my screen. Sounds overly simple, but you can fix a lot of bullshit at your SaaS startup by fixing or improving the product.
Yeah. I mean, it does sound overly simple. Like 10 years in Shopify, I've tried every little hack that you can think of. I could probably talk the ear off you about every little hack. And it sucks that it just comes back to the boring basics are actually what works. Hey, what do you know? Fix the product, improve the product, and everything just gets easier from like top to bottom. You log into your Slack. Hey, client B has an issue. Hey, there's a bug here and people are doing this, that, and the other. Well, if you just fix it, everything just becomes a lot more zen all of a sudden. And sometimes it backlogs up and you're like, all right, we need like a reset week here where we're just going to clean the deck of everything and stop this. Cause you know, your support team, they're like want to be proactive, but they will actually create workarounds that are like a huge band-aid and cover up the actual problem or bug that exists. So it's like just being absolutely brutally ruthless with like cleaning up the product is definitely what we're trying to do. I don't know if you
Yeah, I
guys see
feel
that
like
too.
there's so much opportunity cost in fixing things constantly, right? As opposed to building something else, right? Moving forwards, just changing direction, right? Moving between fixing stuff and actually building for your customers, right? And that process of changing direction. Yeah,
it's
I
brutal.
wonder how much cost there is in that. Yeah, Zach's sitting there thinking, thank God we haven't, stacked up a bunch of tech debt. Yeah, our dev team's a little bit more than 2 people.
I don't know. Zach has that shit dialed in.
I wouldn't say it's dialed, but like we're pretty. It's funny, like even just when talking with like our person that managed our customer support, it's like we have these like really big bugs, but we have very little small bugs. Like when something bad happens, it's like really bad. But like she's like, honestly, like we don't really have much success or onboarding, or like we get like hundreds of signups a day. Like people work their way through it, and like so like yeah, I'm happy that we don't have a big success team. Like
I always got the vibe that you were like the product guy. You know what I mean? That's the way it always seemed.
if
So
I could
I'm
only
all
work on
about.
product every single day, all day, I would be a very happy person. And
Yeah.
my happiness decreases the more that I spend time on even marketing. Like I'd rather just work on product. Like it's definitely the best. Sweet. I think it's good. I got to hop off for another call, but I think it's good.
All right, good
Appreciate
chat.
it. Thanks for coming on, man.
All right, guys.
Thanks,
Talk to you
guys.
soon. Peace.
Peace out.